Hi comic book fans, and welcome to another suddenlycomics.com video. Today I'd like to share with you a rather nice purchase that I made on Whatnot that arrived on Monday. So this was a lot of 20 Marvel Tales comics, which I got from one of the sites that I look at regularly, Searchlight Comics. They just throw up 20 or 30 comics on the wall and they start the auction at something like $10–15. And they're usually dollar bit comics, but you know, you're getting 20 comics quite often for $20, which is what happened in this case. So they threw up some Marvel Tales. I think they started it at $15 and I won it at $20. So there was 21 comics, just under $1 a comic. It then cost virtually nothing to ship it to Stackery because the Whatnot shipping cost is $6 for the first item and $1 for items after that. So it doesn't matter if the item is 21 comics, it'll cost $1. So I bought 4 or 5 things from Searchlight that day. So the cost per comic for shipping is virtually nothing, and then I had to ship them from Stackery back to the UK. In my last box, because there's a lot of comics, the average shipping cost was $1 a comic, so the 21 comics cost me $20 plus $20 to ship back to the UK, so $40 total investment. Right. For those of you who don't know, Marvel Tales, this is the second series of Marvel Tales. The first series was in the golden age of Marvel, but the second series ran from 1964 through to 1994, so it's got a long running series, and effectively it reprinted initially first appearances, but then it mainly focused on reprinting Amazing Spider-Man. So basically it enabled new readers to get back copies of Amazing Spider-Man quite cheaply and to catch up what was happening with Spider-Man. So it ran for 291 issues. They are reprints, so most of these are generally dollar bin comics. However, when I saw these 20 comics on the wall, I did spot a couple that I thought were worth something. Anyway, they arrived, there was no bags and boards on them, they're not in fantastic condition, so I have spent quite a lot of this week cleaning and pressing these and bagging and boarding them, and actually I think I've got a very good deal. So I'm going to show now, first of all, I was a very pleasant surprise when I looked into these. One of the first things to note is all of these are newsstand copies. Now these date from about 1989 through to 1994. Now in that time period, we were at about 15% newsstand and about 85% direct. So newsstands were beginning to get rarer. Plus, of course, with newsstands, if they didn't sell, the owner could rip the page off and send them back and get a refund. So generally the number of newsstands will be lower. Plus, of course, newsstands generally a lower grade condition. So newsstands are worth a bit more than direct ones from this period of time. Right, all of these newsstands. Now, the second thing that was a really pleasant surprise when I opened these up was this. So here is Marvel Tales 221. And as you can see, it's a newsstand. But when I opened it up, inside we have got the Mark Jewelers insert. Now, for those of you who are not aware of this, this is an insert by a company called Mark Jewelers, and basically they were selling jewellery generally to the military, and these Mark Jewelers inserts went in, I think, around about 5% of production, and they went to places near American air bases, either in the US or overseas. And they're generally, I think, around about 5% of a print run. So with this, you've got a newsstand and it's Mark Jewelers. So you've got two items that are making these quite rare. Now, I sort of did a search on Marvel Tales Newsstand Mark Jewelers, and across the whole of eBay and across the whole of the Marvel Tales run, there was one. And it was for sale for about $40 to $50, and it wasn't a particularly rare one. So about half of these have got the Mark Jeweler inserts. And I think that adds quite a bit to the value, because you've got Newsstand, which is sort of like at this stage probably about 10%, 10 to 15% of the production run, and then a Mark Jewelers insert, which is 5% of that. So these are probably less than 0.5% of the total run. So what about 1 in 200, something like that. So I think these are quite rare. Right, now the other thing that the thing that caused me to bid for these was that amongst these there were some ones that I thought had got a bit more value. And this was because although these Marvel Tales were reprints, quite often they would actually put a new cover on the front of the reprint. And some of these covers I think are particularly interesting. Now, this is Marvel Tales 224, which is a McFarlane cover. So in the middle of this is just a reprint, but here we have a McFarlane cover that was new for this comic. And I actually got in this lot, there were actually 2 copies of that. One of them's got a slight tear on it, but the other's not bad. It's probably a 758. Then we've got 225, The Death of Captain Stacy. And again, this is in reasonable condition. And then we've got 226. Now, this particular copy, I think, is as good as an 8.0 or maybe an 8.5. And I value this just looking, because it's Mark Jewelers and it's Newsstand and it's Todd McFarlane on the cover. I reckon probably about $40 to $50. So that one comic has paid for the lot. And actually, there were 2 copies of that. This one is not in as good condition. This is probably a 5.0, something like that. Right, so there are about 10 of these which got the Newsstand Mark Jewelers. There's then slightly more recent ones which, you know, are not worth as much, although they're Newsstands. They haven't got the Mark Jewelers insert in. There's some nice cover art. This is George Perez. There's one here in this run that's number 272. This has got the sort of background, the spider symbiote, the showdown. So we've got Venom and Spidey fighting each other here. I think this one in a Newsstand edition, I think in this condition is probably $15 to $20. There's quite a lot of Hobgoblin here. A really nice cover here. And again, Newsstand. And finally, the last one I got was the reprints, the first appearance of Silver Sable, and this one's in really nice condition. So, what do I think? Well, I've actually valued all these up. I've bagged and boarded them all, pressed and cleaned them all. So for my $40 outlay, and I put what I think is, I put them all in to go collect, and these 21 comics, and I've conservatively priced these, considering the fact that they've got, you know, here we go. This is one of the Mark Jeweler Newsstand editions, and we've got quite a few Punishers. See that. You know, I've conservatively, this one here is particularly nice. I think this is a Mike Zeck cover, and this is in really good condition. Newsstand with a Mark Jewelers insert. I mean, I've only put a value of $15 on that, but it could go for significantly more than that. Um, so um, I think that's a really interesting little collection. Now, I put all those into eBay, conservatively priced them, and came up with a value for these of $200. So having paid $40 total cost, so that was the original purchase cost plus the shipping cost back to the UK, I think I'd say one of my best whatnot purchases, potentially 5 times my original investment. And I actually think those are conservatively priced. A couple of those McFarlane covers, the only thing wrong with them, there's no spine ticks. They're just slightly dirty. And now I've given them a bit of a clean, but if I got a professional person to clean and press those, I think a couple of those could come up into the nines. And then I think we could be talking, maybe getting sort of $70, $80 for those comics with Newsstand and a Mark Jeweller. Right, hope you found this interesting. Enough said.